Some say we should stop singing this sad song and forget our call for reparation. But we just cast it down, forget and ignore the pain and sorrows our ancestors had to endure. The horror of slavery still haunts this generation because they never asked to be stolen and forced into servitude, chained up, shackled, bruised and battered and treated oh so crude. Millions of white oppressors benefited by enslaving Africans, so the descendants of slaves have a right to call for reparations. For all the slaves that they stole away, tell them that they have to pay. We want reparation for slavery. For all the violence and all the hurt, for making Africans believe that they had no way. We want reparation for slavery. For all of the pain and all of the shame. Somewhere, somehow, we want reparation now. Whoa, whoa, whoa. Somewhere, somehow, we want reparation now. African women were raped by white slave masters to satisfy their sex-craved desires, while black men could only watch and do nothing. And the African slave tried to run away without a doubt it was hell to pay. If they got caught, they would be lynched or they'd lose a limb. They were denied education and all basic human rights. To live as a slave was to live a horrible life. In the service of the white slave master, from the cradle to the grave, no compensation, no hope for the African slave. For all of the work they did in the past, for giving them all love and human time. We want reparation for slavery. For the Jim Crow laws and segregation, for all those who got lynched by the Ku Klux Klan. We want reparation for slavery. For all those atrocities, reparation, painful memories. Somewhere, somehow, we want reparation now. Whoa, whoa, whoa. Somewhere, somehow, we want reparation now. Listen, they broke up the African family, took away their rights and their dignity. Their religion and way of life was stolen. Subject them to a cultural genocide, took away the sense of African pride. Their defiant African spirit was broken. The transatlantic journey separated Africans from Africa. Many were scattered throughout the diaspora. Thousands died while making the journey to toil as a slave in the white man's land. So this is a call on behalf of those Africans. For every slave who died while making that trip, for every slave who was ever for slavery. For every slave who was sold on the auction block, white men called them good African stock. For slavery. For all of the tears reparation. All of slavery, yes. Somewhere, somehow, we want reparation now. Whoa, 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 whoa. Somewhere, somehow, we want reparation now. Take my load. Whoa. No slavery. For every slave who was sold on the auction block, white men called them good African stock. Reparation. No slavery. For all of the tears. Reparation. All of slavery. Reparation. Somewhere, somehow, we want reparation now. Whoa, 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 whoa. Somewhere, somehow, we want reparation now. Take my load. Whoa. She's got reparation for the Holocaust. American Indians for their painful past. Aborigines in Australia got some as well. But not one thing for the Africans who they stole from their native land. It seems Africans were born to catch real hell. Great Britain and North America stole the wealth out of Africa. The Miller Empire's on the back of slave labor. And when they said that slavery was over, the white slave masters got compensation. But yet today, Africans still fighting for reparation. Then I hear it from a British Prime Minister say, forgetting slavery upon the yesterday. Who in the man has sincere apology? They destroy the true African legacy. Reparation. For all of the pain and all of the shame. Somewhere, somehow, we want reparation. Whoa, 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 whoa. Somewhere, somehow, we want reparation. Let's not even get whoa, yo.
And a very good evening to you. Welcome to Politics 101. We want reparations for slavery. Tiny there, the Calypsonian out of Trinidad, singing their topical issue. This is the month of emancipation. We want reparations for slavery. And of course, it's an ongoing question, an ongoing debate, and we are helping to popularize that issue here on Politics 101. Welcome to all of you, wherever you're joining us from on a Thursday evening, whether you're joining us from Guyana, inside of Guyana, or you're joining us from outside. Welcome to all of you. Good evening, good night. Some of you, it's night already in Europe. Those of you who are joining us from France, I see a couple of people from France, some people from the United Kingdom, whether it's in England or the Great Britain or the United Kingdom. Welcome to Politics 101. Good evening if you're joining us from St. Lucia, from St. Vincent and the Grenadines. Welcome to Politics 101. Good evening, those of you who join us from Barbados, from St. Martin, from the Bahamas. Good evening. Good evening to all of you Guyanese and friends of Guyana. Welcome to Politics 101. We continue to do what we do because of you. There can be no program if they are not followers and listeners, and I continue to say that every day. And we are thankful that we can gather every evening, and there's always something to discuss. There's always something to discuss. Good evening to you if you're joining us from Bedford Wacton, BV, Triumph. I ran into one of my friends a couple of days ago, one of my schoolmates, Houston Reed, and we went to school together. And that a long time ago, he's from BV, and asked me if I if I remember him. I said, "By me used to sit on the same bench at school, Would I forget you?" Went to school, a lot of people from BV. A lot of people from BV, because in those days, BV did not have a secondary school, a high school. And so most people, if they weren't going to tongue school, as we said in those days, they went to school in Buxton. And Buxton had 3 high schools in those days. We had Buxton Secondary School, which later became Bladen Hall Multilateral. And we had County High School, Guyana School, and then we had Smith's College, Ritchie. And then, of course, just across, we had Annandale Secondary School. So there were 4 secondary schools in that little area there. And my research tells me it's the most secondary school in a particular district in the entire English-speaking Caribbean at one time. And so what that meant is that a lot of our classmates were, quote unquote, not from Buxton. BV, people came from Pleasance, from as far as Ants Grove and Mahaika, a lot of people from Golden Grove, Bachelor's Adventure Paradise, and so on. Good evening to you if you're from those villages there on the East Coast. Welcome to Politics 101. Good evening, Robin Simon from Golden Grove. Haslington, I have to be very careful. Haslington, good evening to you. Haslington, Golden Grove, Nabaklis area. And you go up a little further, you have Belfield and Coven John and Victoria. Back then, Cove School was a place, Sunday night party at Cove School. I used to party back in my days. Welcome to Politics 101. Good evening, Pleasance Industry. Pleasance Parendam. I understand there's some issues there at the ball ground. There's some issues with the ball ground. I think the ministry is trying to take it over. And I understand that ground was a gift to the village by an individual. And so it's not government land. And there's some issues there at the moment. I am going to be following up that issue. I met somebody on Sunday at the Coffee 250 forum. And we're going to be following that issue. So good evening to you. Good evening and welcome to Politics 101. Tonight, we are going to be examining that question. The Commission of Police acting, and we know the Commission of Police story. His time is up, but the president asked him to stay on. That story started under the PPP. I remember Laurie Lewis' time was up and the PPP asked him to stay on. I don't think it happened before then, but we have a man who knows those stories going to be on tonight. Mr. Paul Slowe, our in-house historian, analyst, information person when it comes to these issues. So we had the chairman of the Complaints Authority, Mr. Ramlal, saying this past week that the Commissioner of Police broke the law because there were cases that were supposed to be investigated by the Complaints Authority that were instead investigated by the police, contrary to the provisions of the Constitution. And that was a big story. Starbuck News carried it. I didn't see it in the other media. You know, sometimes our media are, they pick and choose what to emphasize. But that's a big story. But we had been warned about it on these programs by Mr. Slowe. And, Mr. Ramlal, the chair of the Police Complaints Authority, he has now confirmed what Paul Slowe and Conway and the others have been saying. That's our program tonight. We're going to be discussing that. What is that all about? What does it mean? How does it fit into the continued narrative against this government and the way it has treated with the rule of law? The rule of law. Let me bring in Mr. Paul Slowe. Good evening, Mr. Slowe.
Good evening, Dr. Hans. Good evening to your viewers. Good to be here with you this evening.
Always a pleasure. And you're a born and bred BV man. Baronian, as we say, no?
Yeah, Baronian.
Baronian.
Better for Wacom.
We in Boxing said better for Wacom. BV is always an interesting place for me because it's sandwiched there in between Plaisance, as far as African villages are concerned. Plaisance, which is a big village almost like Georgetown, as we would say, and Plaisance always was like Georgetown. Party, two sport, and so on and so forth. And then Buxton, the kind of political warlike place and so on. And if you're BV and you're in between there, you're struggling, if you will. But BV has been a place that has produced a lot of national figures. But it almost goes kind of unseen, if you will. Am I correct in that characterization?
Yeah, you're correct. Lots of people, prominent persons came from there, and I don't want to go through all tonight, but I recall Minister of Home Affairs Vaibot Mingo, a countryman, Justice Prem Prasad, another countryman, Coco Wilson, Sonny Creval. All of those people are from BV, and they have lots of others. The retired Judge Franklin Holder, and many prominent persons in many spheres of activities were from BV. My own father was a renowned village politician.
Yes. And when you think about the younger generation, you think about people like Henry Rodney and Kwesi Odinga, who really were fixtures on the national theater and so on, coming there from Bedford Wacton. And even if you go back, I mean, you go back to that politician from the PPP who challenged the Jagans, was elected the chairman of the PPP, and then Jagan, they rescinded the election because they wanted a black chairman. He was Minister of Home Affairs and I think Minister of Education. I don't know why his name is escaping, but he was from the BV Triumph area. Why his name is escaping, but it'll come to me. Mr. Slowe, I mentioned that Laurie Lewis was the first time I can remember that a commissioner of police had reached the age of retirement and asked to stay on in the post-colonial era. Was that the first time, or that was it happened before?
No, it was not the first time. The first person to be extended beyond 55, and let me make it clear that we're talking about people who were substantive commissioners of police, was Balaram Ragabir. Mr. Oy did extend Balaram Ragabir when he reached 55. And remember, as I'm saying, the emphasis there that all the persons who were so extended were substantive commissioners and were extended before they reached the age of retirement. Those are critical points for our viewers to understand.
Because the present commissioner was acting.
Well, he was acting, and even that is controversial. That is still before the court, because remember, when he was appointed to act, I think it was last year, March, it was challenged because the opposition leader claimed that there was no consultation as required by the Constitution. However, the Chief Justice ruled in that case that because there was no opposition leader at the time, then it was necessary for the appointment to be made. That is challenged. I think that challenge is still pending before the court.
Yes, and one of our viewers here, as usual, very, very quick. Balram Singh Rai is the person I was.
Yes, I remember that. Balram Singh Rai, and then later on, he had his brother, the Kemraj Rai.
Yes. Thank you very much, Henry. Thank you very much, Henry, for reminding. And that's what I love with this audience. They're so informed. They're so informed, quick on the ball. Mr. Slowe, why would a head of state, a head of government want to extend the life of a commissioner? What from your understanding, why did Hoyt, for example, extend Rugby, and I think the Dragons extended Laurie Lewis? What do you know?
But I remember as a young officer, in the case of Mr. Rugby, I became an officer in 1984, so it would have been sometime around. I became an officer in 1985, retroactive, and I'm talking here about gazetted officers. So sometime around Mr. Hoyt's tenure, he came to an officers' conference, and he asked us to discuss whether it would be prudent for the terms the commissioner of police to be extended beyond 55. And he made the point, 55 is a fairly young age, and people are still very useful at that time, and so on. We had groups from the officers' conference. We discussed it, and we made presentations when Mr. Hoyt returned for the presentations, and we were unanimously opposed to that idea of the extension. We made a very compelling argument that it was time for people to move on. We talk about succession planning, we talk about legitimate expectations and all of that. So the officer body opposed that. The next year, Mr. Hoyt returned to the conference, and he said a decision had been made to extend the commissioner beyond 55. He did not explain the reason behind that decision. And therefore, Mr. Ragabir continued to serve beyond 55. And then he ran into some issues. He had to demit office. And then, if you recall, he was sent to India as the High Commissioner. And Larry Lewis took over from Mr. Ragabir. Now, when Larry Lewis took over, the reason for Larry Lewis' extension is a clear case where Larry Lewis, as we would say, suck up to the administration. Because I remember very well prior to 1992, Dr. Jagan made a statement in Trinidad that he wasn't comfortable with the police. And he did say that were he to win the election, he would seek help from the Trinidad, at least for personal protection and security. He made that statement. That is on record. So when in 1992, October, the PPP came into power, Larry Lewis, as you would say, make a switch, and he started to suck up. And he created the impression, and this is important, he created the impression to the government that no one was competent and capable to take over from him. He maligned, he destroyed the reputation of many officers who were seen to be successors. Many, I'm not going to call their name, many are wrong. At the time, the thing was between himself and Skip Roberts, and he did all manner of things. And then he was extended for, I think, 2 years or 3, because he was extended on 2 occasions. He was extended first, and then when that period finished, he was extended again. And then a third effort was made to extend him. and that was challenged, and then he had to dismiss office. Then Floyd McDonald took over from Lewis, and he too served beyond 55. Then the next person to have served beyond 55 was Henry Green. He served until he ran into problem rape allegation, and then he had to dismiss. Brummel took over from Green, and Brummel served a few months, I think, beyond 55, and then he moved on. Again, I say what is important in all of those cases, those persons who were made to serve beyond their 55th birthday were appointed substantively to the post of commissioner. Nobody acting, nobody carrying out the functions of, and he demitted office. Now, having said that, people like the last substantive commissioner, Leslie James, came off at 55. The man before him, Silal Prasad, also came off at 55. Winston Felix, Henry Fraser, Lloyd Barker, all of those persons came off because the rule is at 55. And what the public service rule permits, that if you are in the particular month that you became or you reach the age of retirement, the public service allows persons to remain in the service until the last day of that month. So in Akin's case, he became 55 on the 22nd of July. Public service rules would have allowed him to continue there until the last day of the month of July. But on the first day of August, he is or was a civilian. And therefore, despite what is being said, as we said, now he's squatting in the position. He's squatting. I noted, I think today, a statement that is extension, or is purported extension, as I would want to say, would be challenged. And I am waiting to see what will be challenged in the courts, and I'm waiting to see what will happen there. Because this is unprecedented. There has never been a case where someone who is not substantially appointed to the post of commissioner has been asked to stay on. And what makes this even more worrying is that according to the president, he is going to stay on for an indefinite period. Because the president said he got a letter, he's going to stay on to a period to be announced or to be determined, to use his word. So it's very worrying indeed.
Very worrying indeed. And of course, many people are of the view that this commissioner is really operated in a partisan way. Now, those are accusations. I mean, there's no way in which you can prove that. Well, I shouldn't say there's no way in which we can prove that, but we don't want to libel anybody. But there have been accusations that this commissioner is partisan towards the party in power, and that the police force is becoming more and more entangled with party politics in Guyana. And so therefore, when one hears the president saying that he's extending the life of the tenure of this commission of police, then it raises a lot of red flags. Mr. Slowe, a couple of days ago, the headline in the Stabroek News read as follows: police complaints head accuses top cop of violating act. Top cop of violating act. And the story, of course, goes on to, in great detail, to point out the way in which investigations of accusations against police officers have been dealt with. Do me a favor. First of all, explain to us what is the Police Complaints Authority? What is its function? What is the role of the chairman? What, according to the law, the Police Complaints Authority handles, and what and in what circumstances these cases and these investigations are handled by the Police Complaints Authority?
Right. The Police Complaints Authority Act, Chapter 1702 of the Laws of Guyana, sets out clearly, it creates the authority, and it's an authority that is tasked with the responsibility of investigating certain allegations made against police ranks. And let me say this: there is no chairman of the Police Complaints Authority. People, and that is a mistake that has been made from time to time. There is a police complaints authority. Retired Justice William Ramlal is the police complaints authority. He's not chairman of that body. There's no provision in law for a chairman. He is the authority. So that's the first thing. And the last sets out, he made reference to certain sections. And the last sets out, and I'm going to go through it, the Police Complaints Authority Act. Section 12 of that act says quite clearly that if any complaint or information that any member of the force has unlawfully caused the death of any person or has committed other offenses, those offenses are under Section 48 of the Criminal Law Offences Act, which is doing bodily harm by wanton misconduct. Section 49 speaks to assault causing actual bodily harm. Section 50 speaks to unlawful wounding. Section 55 speaks to discharges loading firearm with intent. And Section 57 talks about felonious wounding. What the law is saying, that if any such complaint is made to the police, or the police got knowledge that any such complaint is made, then the commissioner is compelled by law to inform the complaints authority, who has a responsibility to supervise such an investigation. So once the police is involved in any killing, once the police shoots and kills anyone or kills anyone in any other way, once they involve any one of those other offenses that I spoke about, unlawful wounding, discharging loaded firearm, they have a statutory responsibility as the commissioner to report these matters to the complaints authority, and the complaint authority must supervise whatever investigation is to be done so that he is satisfied that the investigation is properly done. What he is accusing the commissioner of police acting of is going ahead and where even with shootings, they conduct the investigation and then they send the file to the complaints authority, because the complaints authority too has a function. Once the investigation is finished, he looks into the report, and before the file goes to the director of public prosecution, he has to make comments as to whether he thinks that the matter was properly investigated. He makes recommendation whether he thinks charges should be filed, and the DPP, according to the law, must take those recommendations into consideration. So what they have been doing, according to the complaints authority, is they're doing their own thing. Then they send the report to the complaints authority to be rubber stamped. And Mr. Ramlal made it clear, I am not rubber stamping these things. The law requires me to supervise and be satisfied that the investigation was properly done, and that is not being done. So in the gist of the matter, that is what it is. That is what it is. In summary, that is what it is. They're doing their own thing, even though the law stipulates that these things must be supervised by the complaints authority. That is not being done. The commissioner is not informing the complaints authority of these offenses as created, as stated by the relevant law, 1702 of the Act. They're just doing their own investigation, and we know what happened. Many times you would have seen in the media and elsewhere, something happened and they tell, oh, we're going to send it to the Office of Professional Responsibility, OPR, and then they conduct what they believe is an investigation. In many cases, the allegation is that those investigations are not properly done because it's police investigating, so people say that they're covering. And then it goes to the DPP, it goes to the complaints authority, depending on the nature of the offense. And Mr. Ramlal has made it clear that is not that what the law say. I am not rubber stamping anything. I have a statutory responsibility to supervise these investigations. And in supervising the investigation, the law makes it clear that if he's not satisfied with the individual who is investigating, he can tell them, look, change this investigator. If he's not satisfied that statements were properly taken, he can say, look, let's take over the statements or get additional statements or further statements, as we would say in the police force, to make sure that the investigation is done properly. And that is what they are trying to circumvent.
That is what they're trying to circumvent. Mr. Slowe, he cited 4 cases. And one prominent case is, of course, the the Quindon Bacchus case. And I remember when that Quindon Bacchus case was raging last year, that you came on this program, on your own program and several other programs, and you casted doubt on the investigation that was going on. And I remember that there was talk about the Office of Professional Responsibility investigating that case and the way in which that investigation was suspect. Take us back to that case, because Mr. Ramlal did cite that case, and take us back to that case and walk us through how that case was manipulated to exclude the Complaints Authority.
Well, what happened at the beginning of that case, the acting commissioner went to the relatives, and he made a statement to say that Office of Professional Responsibility will investigate, and he made all sort of wishy-washy statement, I don't want to call it. And I called them out because I say that this matter, the killing of a person, requires the involvement of the Police Complaints Authority. That is the law. And after that, the Police Complaints Authority did get involved. He was involved in that investigation, and it's the Police Complaints Authority that made recommendations for 3 ranks to be charged: 1 with murder, 2 with various offenses, including perverting the course of justice. So the Police Complaints Authority did supervise that investigation and made recommendations.
But there was hesitancy. There was the hesitancy.
Yeah, because when it started out, the man there, acting commissioner, said that the Office of Professional Responsibility, and he made all kind of statement, and I made it clear that that is violating the law. That is not the way it should be done. I made a similar statement when we had the Aaron Boston killing on the Essequibo Coast, when they were saying that this matter is going to go to court. They were trying to appease the protesters, and they were saying, look, this matter is going to go to court within a week or something like that. The commander at the time said so. And I think it was on Mark Benchcap. I said, well, no way. This thing has to be investigated, or the investigation has to be supervised by the Police Complaints Authority. That is the law. And they can't jump to say that persons are going to be put before the court in a short space of time. They don't have that authority. The Police Complaints Authority has to supervise. He has to make his findings and his recommendation. He has to send those recommendations to the Director of Public Prosecutions. The Director of Public Prosecutions is mandated by law to take into consideration the recommendations of the Police Complaints Authority.
And he cited a couple of other cases. Can you refresh your memory on the other cases he cited?
Well, he made some. I have the as carried in the Starbrook News. Yeah, he made reference to many things. He said the file concerning the deaths of 4 persons involving police ranks were never sent to him. I don't know which are the 4 he's referring to, but he said file concerning the death of 4 police ranks were never sent to him to be supervised. And then somehow they wanted him to pronounce, to rubber stamp whatever recommendation. He did not identify the cases. I'm not aware of those specific cases. But again, in keeping with the old theme, those things have to go to him very early. The law is saying, and that section 10, I think, of the law is saying that once this comes to your attention, you immediately have to inform the Complaints Authority, so they are in it from the get-go. You can't wait until you do your own thing, and then at some stage you want a rubber stamp. The law makes it clear from the get-go, from the beginning. Ab initio, the Police Complaints Authority must be involved in the process.
Mr. Slowe, what now? These things have now come to light. Is there a way in which these things can be challenged in court? For example, I know you're not a lawyer, but tell us from your experience as a police what this says to us.
Well, he said a lot of things. Among the things that he said, I'm going to deal with that aspect. But I want to point out to you, also pointed out that there are cases where policemen are charged criminally and still on the job. They're not interdicted, yes, in keeping with the relevant laws and regulations. I know in the case of persons from inspector up to assistant commissioner, the Police Service Commission is the body responsible for interdicting those persons. From constable to sergeant, the commissioner of police will interdict pending the outcome of the charge. Now, we also know that the Police Service Commission, until recently, was not fully constituted. So I don't think anything, they did make some action which were illegal. So you have a case, or at least one case that I am aware of, where an inspector of police is charged for some sexual assault, and the man is still on the job. And I think that's one of the things that the Complaints Authority was pointing out, because the Service Commission is now fully constituted, and therefore they should do their work. They were doing the work when they were not fully constituted in terms of making promotions and all of that, and trying to discipline people. But now they are fully constituted, and they have a man who falls under their purview, who should be interdicted and still on the job. And the Complaints Authority made reference to that. But you ask on the way forward. Let me read the same act again, section 11.3 of the Police Complaints Authority Act, chapter 17, colon 2. You know, and I know sometimes lawyers listen. I'm not a lawyer, as you rightfully pointed out. But I do a lot of reading, and I've been exposed to legal studies and training as a senior police officer for a number of years. And section 11.3 of the Police Complaints Authority Act says, and let me read, a contravention of any provision of this act by the commissioner, or refusal or failure by the commissioner without lawful excuse to comply with any direction or request made to him under this act by the authority shall be deemed to be misbehavior by the commissioner for the purpose of section 225 of the Constitution of the Cooperative Republic of Guyana. Now, misbehavior. Section 225 says that if you are accused of misbehavior, certain people, including the commissioner, a process can be initiated to have you removed from office. I suspect that the process in this case, I'm not sure, might have to be initiated by the Prime Minister, where, you know, and I say this from experience, because when I was the chairman of the Police Service Commission, and they wanted to get rid of the Police Service Commission, the Prime Minister wrote to me and other members, he wrote to me and Conway, asking us on 2 occasions, or let me put it this way, he wrote to me and Conway in the first instance, asking us to show cause why we should not be removed, why he should not advise the president to initiate the process to have us removed from the commission. He responded, and then a few weeks after, a second show cause letter to all members of the Police Service Commission at the time, again, for us to show cause why we should not be removed. So I think when we talk about 225, they're saying that the appropriate person, I suspect this person is the Prime Minister, should ask the acting commissioner to show cause why this process to having removed from office. So misbehavior, because the law is clearly saying, 1702, that what he is being accused of by the Complaints Authority is misbehavior in public office, and therefore a process should be initiated to have him removed.
Misbehavior in public office against the Commissioner of Police. In most countries around the world, that would be a big case, a big case. And it should be in Guyana, because this is a serious matter. Because what Mr. Ramlal is saying is that important investigations as they relate to officers of the state, in this case, police officers, have been mishandled. And that in itself is a miscarriage of justice, interfering with the process. We had a recent process with the Dharamlal case that all kinds of things happened. Mr. Slowe, did the Dharamlal case go to the Police Complaints Authority?
Well, there's no requirement for it to go there. There's no requirement. Dharamlal is not a police officer.
He's not the police officer.
The police, right. The police Complaints Authority deals with police ranks, right? But
police,
so there was no requirement for that to go there.
Yes, there's no requirement for God there. I think that the Norberger case is a case was cited in the article here in the Stabrook News. Yes, the Norberger case is one in which he's the Complaints Authority site. Tell us what led to the Complaints Authority. What were the circumstances that led to the passing of that act and the establishment of that office?
Well, that office came into being, I think, around 2000, and I can't remember the exact year, but I know it was being, it was long ago. I did some research recently and spoke to people who were involved in the process. It is long since in the 80s or sometime in the 90s.
In the 90s.
It was suggested that, look, we need to have a police complaints authority act to make sure that a body outside of the police investigates misconduct, reported or allegations of misconduct, because it has always been the feeling that the police cannot investigate the police. So eventually, this act came into being for and established the Police Complaints Authority to investigate allegations of misconduct on the part of the police. And the act, as I've said, because apart from what we have read about those offenses, the act makes it clear that any offense you can go to, if any allegation of any type of misconduct apart from those that I identified earlier, the act makes it clear that any allegation of misconduct by a police rank can be made to the Police Complaints Authority, and they have the authority to investigate. So, as I've said, many people are uncomfortable and they don't trust the police to investigate the police. Well, the act provides for you to make the complaint to the Police Complaints Authority. They will do the investigation, and then it speaks about the process. So, yes, this thing came into being in the 90s, and I remember we had Justice Kennard for a long time there as the Complaints Authority. He was succeeded, I think 2018, Mr. Ramlal succeeded him. And I think even before that, they might have had, even before Mr. Kennard's tenure, I think they had one person there from a fact, I think it was, I'm not sure, as a Complaints Authority. So yeah, the law makes provision for that. And it's all to make sure that the allegations about misconduct by policemen are investigated to give persons the comfort that the investigation is going to be properly done. Because as you saw in the report, the Complaints Authority made it clear of the number of reports that were made. Some were found to be frivolous, and therefore they did not pursue that. Others were found to have merit, and those were referred. And the important thing here, and I've said it before, because I have done the research, I to show that even when these matters are sent, because remember, the Police Complaints Authority going to make the recommendations, he refers it to the commissioner. The commissioner, in some cases now, if it's breach of discipline under the Police Discipline Act, is required to initiate the process to have the rank answer to a disciplinary charge. But in many, many cases, and Mr. Ramlal has alluded to that even when these things are sent to the commissioner for disciplinary action to be taken against ranks, nothing is being done. I saw cases, many, many cases when I was at the commission, where even when the director of public prosecutions make recommendation for disciplinary action against rank, nothing happens. Nothing. So you have an Office of Professional Responsibility. They will tell you at the first, OPR will investigate. OPR will investigate. Many times they investigate and they make recommendations. They do good investigations and they make recommendations for persons to be charged. Now, the practice there is that once the Office of Professional Responsibility investigates a matter, they will send it to the Director of Public Prosecutions for legal advice. The Director of Public Prosecutions may either advise criminal charge, depending on what the allegation is, or departmental charge, again, depending on the nature of the allegation. And I'm saying that in many, many cases, when the DPP recommends disciplinary charges against the ranks, nothing is being done. So persons are not held accountable for their errant actions, and that is a big part of the problem in the force. A big part of the problem, people are not held accountable when they do wrong things.
Mr. Paul Slowe here helping us make sense of the charge by the head of well, not the head, the Police Complaints Authority, about the way in which the Commission of Police has been acting when matters arise that have to do with accusations against policemen and women. Mr. Slowe, if you may pivot, was a report a couple of days, I think, in the Kaito News, with the headline, Home Affairs Minister denies lack of public trust in police. And of course, this came in the wake of the Georgetown Chamber of Commerce, or the the Georgetown Chamber of Commerce, talking about the rise in crime and its impact on business and so forth. And here we have the minister saying that, oh no, there is no lack of public trust. And he doesn't cite any study that was done, any poll that was done, but he says that he denies that there is lack of public trust in the police. Your comments?
Well, the minister, I would say, is delusional. All those who are saying, in the face of all the evidence, people are afraid to walk around. You go to the bar to take a drink, as in the case of Olato Sam, you're shot and killed. In the case of the man in West Rhineville, I see today someone is charged. He's there, somebody pulls out a gun, fire indiscriminately, he is killed, another person is injured. We had the case in Sophia, a brawl between two women. Somebody pull out a gun, shoot indiscriminately, injured 4 persons. So the evidence is there. The evidence is there about the increase in crimes, and the evidence is there also about the lack of trust in the police force. I mean, once you live in Guyana, as we all do, we know about the fear of crime. People are afraid to even go to the police and make reports, and that is what the Georgetown Chamber of Commerce and Industry said as well, that they come with some statistics, but people in many cases do not want to make reports because they don't feel anything will be done. And look, again, if you walk around Georgetown at any time, look at all those businesses with security guard with big long rifles. Though that is an indication, and I've said repeatedly, imagine you are a tourist, they're talking about tourism, or you come to a country and almost every major store you go in, a man is there with a shotgun, a man standing around with an assault rifle. What impression will you get? There's no way you can feel that this place is safe. That is the imagery. People with all these big guns. You drive around the place, you see all the lawlessness on the road. So I don't know where the minister, which rock the minister is under, and that got to be a big rock, because for him to not to be able to see, and you know, they say, you in the consumer like me, they have no conscience, cockroach eat out the conscience. So he can say all that he wants to say, but we know different, you know. And in terms of the crime statistics, I had planned to look at it along with my colleague, Mr. Conway, yesterday, but time ran out on us. But we have done the research, and time permitting next week, God's Spirit Life next week, Wednesday, we're going to address it. Because let me say this, when the police tell you about serious crimes in Guyana, they talk only about 11 categories of serious crime. And of those 11, 5 are for robbery, different types of robbery. 5. So things like arson, that's that are considered a serious crime. All the drugs that are being intercepted, people are being charged, possession of cocaine, possession of marijuana, those things are not considered serious crimes. And many others, we're going to talk about it next week, Wednesday, about it. So, and you know, when you talk about serious crime, again, the World of Statistics report for 2022 says that Guyana has the 7th highest crime rate in the world. Let me repeat that. Wow. Guyana has the 7th highest crime rate in the world, and they do it per capita. And only Trinidad and Tobago in the English Caribbean at number 6 has a higher crime rate. So when the figures are there, the figures are there. The United States Embassy last month, July, I think it's around the 17th of July, issued a travel advisory to their citizens not to travel to Guyana unless you have urgent business. And they made statements about that. So I don't know what the minister is really talking about. in terms of crime rate and in terms of lack of confidence, people lack confidence in the system. And the sad thing is, unless you accept that, then they're not going to do anything to correct it. Because if you are continuing to deny that this system or this state exists, then you would not see the need to look to address it. And that is a worrying thing.
Mr. Paul Slowe here, a ton of information. Mr. Slowe, I shared the platform with you on Sunday at the Coffee 250 State of the African Guyanese Forum. And brilliant presentation, of course, full of information. One thing jumped out at me, and that was you cited some figures as they relate to the promotion within the police force. And you did some ethnic breakdown of that promotion process. And I sat there on that stage and I said, my God, one just took it for granted that, look, I mean, the police force, predominantly African. And you just took it that it doesn't matter how they play around. The majority of promotions would be Africans. So, even if they try to play around with it, they're not going to be able to do promotions where Africans are not the majority. But your figures, your data showed otherwise. If you have it at hand there, can you please cite that data for our viewers? Those who didn't hear it on Sunday, and even those who heard it on Sunday, say it again for us.
Well, not only the promotion of Africans, but promotion of qualified and experienced Africans in the force. As you rightly pointed out, there is no question that the Guyana Police Force has a numerical dominance of Afro-Guyanese. There's no question about that. And in the presentation, I said that many things have been advanced. Many reasons have been advanced for this situation. The government policy, the talk about religious beliefs, and all those things have been advanced to say why the Africans have this numerical dominance in the police force. And I make the argument, I pointed out the case, that since this government came into power in August 2022, there has been a concerted effort to Indianize the high command of the police force since 2022 August. So we have a situation now, and again, I am challenging them to dispute this. You have a situation now, 3 years down the road, where regional, the police divisions are aligned to the regional administrative divisions. So you have 12 really, because region 4 is broken up into 3. So you have 4A, 4B, 4C. So you have Regional Police Division 1, that is Barima Waini, commanded by an young Indian police officer, inexperienced. Number 2, Region Division number 2, Essequibo Coast, commanded by an Indian police officer. This is the same officer who took this statement from this the rape victim in the Darmlal's case, a couple of days after, to try to cover up, right? You have Region 3 is commanded by an Indian commander. Region 4B, which is East Bank, is commanded by an Indian officer. Region 4C is commanded by an Indian officer. Region 6, which is Quarantine Abobi, is commanded by an Indian officer. Region 8 is commanded by an Indian officer. And you have, I made the point about other positions such as operations, SOKU, finance, and in many cases, these divisions also have other important persons like the man in charge of traffic, the man in charge of CID. These persons are all, and it not only, I'm not making the point only because of the ethnicity, but in many cases, these people are not qualified. They are not qualified. Right? And in many cases, too, you have Afro-Guyanese police officers who are highly qualified, not only in terms of the academic qualification, but they have the experience, they have the know-how, and they know policing, but they are being stymied, they are being kept back. In terms of the promotion that you refer to, I don't have the figures here, but I think I know it. where last year in July, when they made that controversial promotion list of I think they promoted a whole set of persons to assistant commissioner. Only 3 were Afro. I think it was like about 8. Only 3 were Afro. When you come to senior superintendent, same thing. Dominance of Indian police officers. When it came to superintendent, they promoted 21 superintendents. Only 8 of those 21 were Afro-Guyanese. And a similar disproportionality was seen in all the other ranks in the force. All the other ranks. Look, we have a case where right now, that again, I like to say, let them challenge it. The man who was there, this controversial officer, Ramana, at Soku, he's the man who arrested the attorney for advising our client to be silent. That was in October of last year, right? Well, the matter was went before the Chief Justice. The Chief Justice found that they violated the attorney's right, constitutional right. The man was moved from Soku and put a second in command of traffic. And it was said by one of their mouthpieces that he is to take over as traffic chief from the 1st of September this year. The traffic chief now is an Afro-Guyanese, Stevens. And they're saying that this Ramana, a man who is so controversial, a man who seems not to even know his powers of arrest, is taking over. I know as recent as this week, word is that the man has gone to East Coast at Cove and John to take over there as from the commander. Apparently the commander has been moved because somebody gone and leave. And this same man, this same junior superintendent, I said junior because he was only promoted last year, and they have many, many persons who are senior to him, Afro-Guyanese, experienced, knowledgeable police officers. And he is put at Cove and John there now. And if you think, go tomorrow and ask to see who is the commander, and they will tell you. So that has been a pattern over the years. And no doubt, the people, the ranks in the force, especially the Afro ranks, are demoralized. People are demoralized. And even at the senior level, despite what they will tell you, the fact that Akin has been made to stand, people are not comfortable with it. People are not comfortable, and not only because he is made to stand, but they believe that many people there are more qualified than he is. And I think they were playing rope-a-dope because they said, all right, he can reach 55 soon, and he's going to go off. But now that he is being made to stand, there's a lot of disquiet, and not quite naturally so. So that is the situation that you have. The force has become very dysfunctional. And despite what the minister would say, despite what the president will say, those are the facts. And people are morbidly afraid, ranks in the force, they are morbidly afraid to speak anything and to even voice their concerns because they are being bullied, they are being threatened, people getting threatened to be dismissed and all of that. But let me run back quick to this issue with Mr. Ramlal, because we make issue over the fact, let me pull up the notes. We make issue over the fact, and quite rightly so, that he has been accused of violating the Police Complaints Authority Act. But there are there's other cases, that the current acting commissioner, even before now when they haven't done anything, you have the same case referred to with in the Quindon Bacchus murder. 3 policemen are charged and put before the court. I think they went to court on the 5th of July. Sergeant Damien McKinnon, Lance Corporal Simon, Lance Corporal Denabriga. They are charged criminally and put before the court. On the same day they appeared in court, on the same day, the acting commissioner dismissed them from the force. So there was no due process. There's no presumption of innocence. And the Constitution guarantees that presumption of innocence. The Constitution guarantees the presumption of innocence, but in this case, no, there's no such thing for these people. Only recently this year, 3 ranks in Berbice accused of an officer misplaced, according to the commander, his firearm. A police officer, gazetted officer, assistant superintendent misplaced his firearm. 3 constables are summarily dismissed by the acting commissioner. So again, and that is a violation of the person's constitutional rights. And the courts have held repeatedly that you can't dismiss a man without giving him without due process, giving him a right to be heard. And in the case of those persons who are charged and put before the court, there is a presumption of innocence. You can't presume that they are guilty and just dismiss them just like that. But you know, these things were brought to the attention of the government and they haven't done anything. So there's no surprise to me that the acting commissioner will continue to violate constitutional rights and other laws because it is being encouraged.
It has been encouraged. 12 divisional heads, 7 Indo-Guyanese, some of whom are junior officers not qualified. You all hear it here tonight. You all hearing it here tonight. We're not making up this. You know, the reason I'm stressing this is because sometimes our people say we talk too much talk. But if we don't talk about these things, they won't come out. I mean, I took it for granted that even if you try to promote some non-Africans, it's hard to have promotions where the majority are not Africans. It never occurred to me that the majority of divisional heads are Indo-Guyanese. And I'm sure it didn't occur to 99.9% of us on this program here tonight. And when we talk about an apartheid state, this is not Mr. Slowe, this is me now. This is what an apartheid state looks like. You all see the strategy here? And Mr. Slowe has hinted, when you have a Hicken staying on, there are people who may be eligible to become commissioner, who may be 53 years old. And if you hold Hicken there for the next 2 years, you deny that man who is 53. You deny him to serving as commissioner because the 2 years he may have served as commissioner, Hickens is there acting and staying on beyond 55. Mr. Slowe, I know you've been searching your documents there. Come in and tell me what you...
Yeah, I mean, let me tell you another worrying thing about that same report from the Complaints Authority. And this is in the last paragraph, the last 2 paragraphs. And this is important. He says, Ramlal said that his investigations under Section 8 and 12 of the Police Complaints Authority had caused him to interview over 300 police from the rank of senior superintendent of police to rural constables, including of community police. He interviewed those persons. And here what he's saying, he's quoted as saying, those interviews have established that not one police rank showed knowledge of the force's standing orders in its entirety, or even in a substantial way. Likewise, all these ranks have shown very little knowledge of the fundamental rights of all citizens, which are clearly written in Articles 138 to 153 of the Constitution. Ramlal said, he added, that these ranks have shown that they do not have a working knowledge of key laws such as the Summary Jurisdiction Offences Act, the Administration of Justice Act, and even the Evidence and Sexual Offences Act. This is a damning report. This is a damning report. Mr. Ramlal is saying from senior superintendents, and that's what we're saying. I am saying a lot of inexperienced people are put into these positions, and I would, I have no expectation that it was going to be done. But if you were to do a proper survey and a proper research, you're going to see what he's talking about. People are put there, they don't have a clue what is going on. Now, when you talk about a senior superintendent of police who doesn't have proper understanding of the standing order of the force, they don't have, as he said, knowledge, fundamental rights of citizens. These are senior people. So what do you expect with the ones at the junior level? What do you expect? And it is a serious problem. The government it seems comfortable with the way how the force is in, because I think they have weaponized it, and they know that once it is kept like that, they can continue to give unlawful instructions. And in many cases, the senior ranks don't have the knowledge to say, well, look, sorry, this cannot be done because it is unlawful, or they just complain. In some cases, they know it's unlawful, but they just carry out. You tell them jump, and they ask you how high to jump. And that is an issue that we have. The force is in a mess. The force is in a mess. And as they say, the fish spoils from the head. And the government has clearly indicated to the president that they are comfortable with the status quo. So what do we expect? They are comfortable with the status quo.
They're comfortable with the status quo. Brothers and sisters, we got to keep on this. This is explosive. This is explosive that Mr. Slowe is pointing out here tonight. I sat on that stage on Sunday, and I had never, as I said, somebody like myself who is on to racial discrimination. I am surprised because you take things for granted. And look, this is not against the individual officers. Mr. Slowe always say he's a policeman first, and he's a policeman. And I am saying, although I'm not a policeman, I have a lot of friends, family, countrymen, and women who are in the police force. And as an individual, I don't be mishandled by the police. The police are always very courteous. They recognize me on the road. They say hello. If I stop at the block, they say good night and so on. I don't have police problems. So I mean, it's not that I have a thing against police. So we don't have anything against policemen and women. We want to make that clear. Mr. Slowe always say that. He's a policeman and he's a police. And I'm saying here that I am in support of the ranks in the police force. Because they're my brothers, they're my sisters. They don't ill-treat me on the road and so on. I'm sure if they got instructions to think, they'll carry out their instructions. But they don't go out of their way to make me feel uncomfortable whenever they see me around and so on. If they public functions we have in Buxton, they're always very cooperative. I would go to them personally and talk to them and tell them, look, we're having this event. This is what I'm requesting. So we are not against policemen and women. But clearly the police force is being manipulated. Clearly these men and women are being manipulated, Mr. Slowe.
Well, clearly. And as you rightly pointed out, I have nothing personal against, most of the individuals, and I qualify that. But they are put in a position, lack of training, no proper training is going on at all levels we're talking about. And this statement from the report from the Complaints Authority has borne that out. No training, no proper training goes on. No attention is given to proper training. And that is the problem that you have. You put a man as a commander without preparation. In my day, before I became commander, I went through so many courses. Before I became a senior commander, Police Staff College, FBI Academy, National Defense University of the US, and many, many local and overseas programs. Those of us who were identified as command material were made to go through that. Even our local course, locally, junior officers course, senior officers course, station sergeant course, prosecutors course, all of those courses were run locally. When I was on the junior officer course back in 1980, we had students from overseas, St. Lucia and all of those places, sent policemen, officers into Guyana to train. We had policemen over the years from St. Lucia, Grenada, Trinidad, Barbados, all of those, Suriname, all those people came to Guyana because the standard of training was so high. But now they're not even training their own, so nobody's gonna come. Nobody's gonna come, and it has been reflected in the performance. It has been reflected in the performance where people are there and again some basic things. Look, let me say one again. They have now some civilians they have as a corporate communication unit. These people don't have a clue what is going on. and apparently there is no supervision of them. So they make all type of releases because they're there and they see themselves as politicians, and they make all sort of foolish releases. Only yesterday, I think it was, the issue, last week Friday, a young man was shot and killed by St. George's Cathedral.
Yes.
And if you read yesterday's Stabrook News, it kind of thing, basically what they're saying, this is what the police are saying, that someone sent from the Attorney General's chamber to change some money at a cambio. He was accompanied by a ranks from the presidential guard who was armed. And as he was walking going towards the vehicle, this man, the deceased, snatched his phone from his pocket, ran. The policeman from the presidential guard shot and killed him. And they're saying that the man, his accomplice, is charged for robbery. I know yesterday we had a big discussion among some retired police officers, including senior detectives. That can never be a robbery. We're saying the elements of a robbery are not there. We used to call it long ago, either pickpocket, or in law is larceny from the person. And they are saying in a release to the media that it was a robbery. And we're saying again, because the people who are there, if they are trained, if they're experienced, if they're knowledgeable, would be able to see that the elements as outlined there do not support a case of robbery. And that is how bad they are. That is how bad we are in the system. And any, things like larceny and this type of thing. Up to yesterday, again, we were discussing how many of them know, are trained, what is the definition for larceny. Those are things we all had to learn when we were in training school. And we learned it so well that up to now, I can recite the definition for larceny. It says, a person steals who without claim of right made in good faith takes and carries away anything capable of being stolen with intent at such time of taking permanently to deprive the owner thereof. Those are right in that definition. You have the elements to establish a case of larceny. But what you have happening now, you have people in position they don't know. Back in the day, as we were saying, instruction classes, a weekly feature. So the sergeant in charge of the station, the inspector, will get the ranks on specific subjects which are dictated by headquarters, and you train them, you remind them of these elements and so on, statement writing, powers of arrest, a mode of arrest. Nothing happens now, Doc. Nothing happens. And that is why you find people running the road, all the fighting with the policemen and all of that, because they are not being properly trained.
Because they're not properly trained. You've been given a promotion here, Professor Slowe. Mr. Slowe, your program is on Wednesdays at 11 o'clock, no?
Yeah, Wednesdays at 11 o'clock. But for those who are interested, all the episodes are on YouTube. So if you go now on YouTube, you're going to see, as a matter of fact, not about an hour or so ago, I posted a clip asking the question, why was the Minister of Education, Pierre Manichan, at the swearing in of the Commission of Inquiry. And I invite you to go and look. We are doing what we can do to bring and to educate persons, because we make the case, we make the argument that no doubt that the Minister of Education will be a crucial witness at the Commission of Inquiry. So how come she's there at the swearing in of those persons? And go on YouTube now. I invite you. Speaking out, exposing corruption, incompetence. You see the sign in the background there, and you will see all the episodes. The most recent being yesterday, episode 31, I think it is. They're there for you to see what we are talking about.
Mr. Paul Slowe, and I have to do better in terms of getting you on here on a more regular basis to widen and broaden these discussions. Yes, they're all here on the page. Let me see if I can pull it up here for the audience. Here we are. Yes, here it is there on YouTube. You can go there and you can get Speaking Out, Exposing Corruption and Incompetence. All of the episodes are there by Mr. Paul Slowe. Invaluable information. The clip that he's talking about, the clip that he's talking about is there.
And for allowing all our viewers to get up this morning and to be able to be tuned in to this program, which I promised this morning will be very exciting. All the episodes have been exciting, but I think this morning program will be even more exciting than the previous programs. When I sit down and I think about what I am to speak about, I put together some ideas and then things intervene and causes me to rejig, causes me to adjust so that those issues, current issues, can be addressed. I want to continue to be thankful for the interest shown and the growing viewership. According to Facebook analytics, the last episode reached over 12,000 persons. Wow. So it is evident that the program is growing in popularity and the interest is there. I want to encourage you to share the stream, share the live stream so that more persons can be aware of the program, like the page so that you can get notification when the stream goes live. This morning, I plan to, last week I did tell you that about the worrying exponential increase in COVID cases, and I urge you, as I do once again, this is the old one, that make sure that you take all the necessary.
Yes, that's an old one there.
That's an old one.
You guys have it there. You have it there on YouTube. They're there. And Mr. Slowe, anything that I didn't ask you about that you want to say before we go?
Well, not really, Doc. Again, I say thanks for the opportunity to be here. And as I've indicated to you previously, whenever, just give me a shout. And I am willing to be here to share the knowledge. Because, the program that we have, Speaking Out, Exposing Corruption and Incompetence, we have decided, we have made a conscious decision. We identify these problems and we provide, recommended solutions. Sometimes people come out and they say, look, you're just identifying problems and you're attacking. We're not only attacking, we are attacking indeed, but we are also providing and making recommendations. I think it was Monday, I was on Guyana Morning Time when one of the persons said, well, look, I should come, I'm only talking, but I should make myself available to assist. So I had to remind him that the last time I attempted to assist, I ended up with a conspiracy, a trumped-up conspiracy to commit fraud, because they really don't want to air the truth. They want people who are going to say what they want to hear. I am not that. And I think they have enough of those persons in the system who will just do whatever they want them to do. That is not me. I am not going to be there. And I have said over and over again, the knowledge I have acquired in policing is because the administration at the time, of the force and the country invested in me. They invested in me. So I feel the urge to pay back, because I was sent to all of those training courses at government expense. Well, sometimes it was scholarship from the British and all of that. but generally government expense. And therefore, I feel an obligation to impart some of the knowledge. And I say too, that prior to this government coming into power in 2022, I would have been invited by the police administration to train and to deliver presentations to senior officers, to other ranks, and I would always willingly and readily do so. But now I am persona non grata. So I'm going to use this forum to highlight, to point out the problems. And when I said this forum, I'm speaking about speaking out, to point out the problem and to address issues, because many times people will ask me and my colleague, Mr. Conway, to address and to explain particular policing issues, and we do the research and we will do that. So yes, I'm glad for this opportunity tonight, and I am going to be available whenever the call is made.
Thank you very much. And that information that you shared on Sunday, some of that data as it relates to the promotion, please share them with me, because I am going to highlight that aspect of your presentation on this program, because like I said, I took it for granted, and I'm sure most of us took it for granted, that it's, my God, 7 of the 12 commanders are Indian Guyanese. Hinta Beniba, Mekwashiba, take notice. Good night, Mr. Slowe.
Good night. Good night.
And thank you very much. And my God, thank God for what people like Paul Slowe are doing. They always say we talking, where's the evidence? Then don't we get evidence? Are you not as stunned as I am stunned that 7 of the commanders, 7 out of 12 commanders are Indo-Guyanese? I think even Indian Guyanese would be surprised at that. In a force that I'm sure that is over 75% African. 75, I'm being conservative. Oh my God, this is a runaway train. This is a runaway train. It's got to be stopped. And the first thing we do when we're stopping this train is we've got to arm ourselves with the facts, with the data. Thanks to Senior Counsel Nigel Hughes. He's been hammering away at that thing for years. And now we're getting the data, we're getting the facts. By the way, you all hear the Attorney General last night said no to power sharing. He said no to power sharing. The government, the PPP, does not intend to share power. What it means, they do not intend to bring African Guyanese to the table. Clear. Clear. You got 50 point something percent of the vote, and you're saying you don't want to share. That's what that loquacious one Anil said last night. Jack, you said before. They've thrown down the gauntlet. They've thrown down the gauntlet. Good night. Tomorrow night, I'm dealing with that. Tomorrow night, we're dealing with that. This new brazen declaration by the PPP that they're not sharing power in Guyana. All right. Again, tomorrow night, we're dealing with that. Tomorrow night.